The dark, bitter drink served in cafes around the world starts as a bright red berry. But here in Uganda, that small fruit drives our biggest agricultural export. Coffee is a perennial crop. It is not a seasonal gamble, where you clear the field and start over every few months. When you plant a coffee bush, you are making a financial commitment that spans decades. Because the plant will be in the ground for generations, a mistake made during the first few weeks of cultivation compounds into years of lost yield and lost revenue. The foundation of a coffee business starts before a single seed is planted. The flavor profile you can produce is biologically locked to your exact altitude and temperature. If you are farming in the warm, low-altitude central and western basins, like the areas surrounding Lake Victoria, you are planting Robusta. It is a tough, disease-resistant plant that thrives in the heat and produces a strong, highly caffeinated bean. But if you want to cultivate Arabica, you need the exact opposite environment. Its smooth, complex aroma requires the cool temperatures and high altitudes found on the slopes of the Rwenzori and Mount Elgon ranges. You cannot fight your topography. Your coordinates on the map dictate which bean will survive, and ultimately, how you will structure your business. Once the geography is set, cultivation begins in the nursery. Seedlings are incredibly vulnerable to solar damage. They require continuous artificial shade and strict watering routines until their leaves are sturdy enough to survive in the main garden. When transplanting during the rains, spacing is a precise science. A mature Robusta bush requires a 3 by 3 meter footprint to avoid overcrowding. Applying organic mulch, like banana leaves, around the base ensures the soil retains vital moisture through the dry season. As the bushes mature, farmers run into the pruning paradox. It is tempting to leave every branch intact to grow more berries, but dense, unpruned bushes block sunlight and restrict airflow, creating a perfect breeding ground for pests. Cutting back unproductive wood forces the bush to channel its nutrients into the remaining branches, maximizing the size and quality of future yields. When it is time to harvest, strict discipline is required. Taking the shortcut of strip picking, pulling off ripe red and unripe green cherries together, chemically ruins the flavor of the entire batch. Farmers must selectively pick only the mature red cherries. This flowchart tracks the journey of a harvested cherry through the two main processing routes. In dry processing, the cherry is left intact and dried whole in the sun, creating a basic product known locally as kiboko. The alternative is wet processing. Instead of drying the whole fruit, the cherry is passed through a pulper to mechanically strip away the outer skin, exposing the inner seed. That inner bean is then fermented to break down the sticky fruit layer, washed completely clean, and set out to dry. This yields a highly protected, superior product called parchment. Choosing the wet processing route requires more labor and equipment, but it transforms a raw agricultural output into a refined high-margin commodity. Let's test this logic. Imagine a farmer working in the warm, flat lowlands of Luero wants to maximize their profit. Based on what we've covered, which variety must they plant, and which processing method should they use? The environment answers the first question. The low altitude means they must plant Robusta. To get the premium price, they must use wet processing to create parchment instead of basic kiboko. Maximizing revenue relies entirely on pairing accurate environmental data with the right mechanical processing strategy. All the manual labor, pruning, and processing ultimately faces one final unforgiving audit: the cupping table. Cupping is a strict sensory evaluation. Hot water is poured over the ground beans, left to steep, and then experts break the crust of grounds on the surface to release the aroma. They are hunting for complex flavor profiles and checking for any defects caused by a careless harvest. This chart shows the financial logic behind value addition. Selling raw beans to middlemen keeps profit margins flat. But when a cooperative takes the final steps to ensure those beans are roasted and packaged locally, the financial return curves sharply upward. The global coffee market does not pay top dollar simply for the volume of cherries you harvest. It pays for the sensory perfection you deliver in the final cup. This diagram represents your operational blueprint. You start by matching your crop, Arabica or Robusta, to your climate. From there, execution requires 5 strict phases: protecting the nursery, engineering the garden, selectively harvesting the crop, processing the beans, and auditing the final cup. Respect your topography, control your processes, and a simple plot of land becomes a generational business.